We have a really fun evening ahead. First of all, I'm Maureen Littlejohn. I'll be moderating, and we've got wonderful panelists who I will be introducing in a sec. But I wanted to let you know a little bit about JourneyWoman. This is the first website for women's solo travel, and it was founded in 1994 by Evelyn Hannon, uh, who I met, and was a lovely, lovely person. And it's now run by Carolyn Ray, who actually is in Antarctica. Um, so it's kind of exciting for her, but exciting for us to be here and to talk about food. This is part of our culinary immersion series, which looks at the way women learn about culture through travel. And last month in the series, we explored festivals. This month, it's food. And next month, it's going to be ancestry travel. These webinars are the last Tuesday of every month, except for this one, which is Monday because of some scheduling, but it's the last Tuesday of every month. So put that in your calendars. And today we want to inspire you about food as an integral part of your travels. And we want to hear your questions, and our panelists are going to be happy to answer your questions. These questions are about people that are traveling solo or who are part of a tour. So it could be either one. A little bit about me. I've been a journalist for at least 30 years. I'm a contributor to JourneyWoman. I just wrote about a wonderful tour I did with the Tour with Absolutely, a Paris suite tour. It was fantastic. I also did a piece earlier in the year about the ethics of eating and when we travel, and the things to do and what not to do. I'm on the board of the World Food Travel Association. I'm on the board of the Society of American Travel Writers. And I just believe food is a very important part of travel. I do food tours wherever I go, and we can probably get into that a little bit further as we go along with this webinar, but I'm sure everybody's got lots of fun things to share. So I wanted to introduce our panelists. First of all, I'd like to introduce Cheryl Jameson. So Cheryl, could you tell us a little bit about who you are and maybe give us a little food experience that you've had?
Hi, yes, I'm Cheryl Alters Jameson. I am based in Santa Fe, New Mexico, in the southwest part of the U.S., and that's where I'm sitting today. I'm the author of some 20 or so cookbooks in particular, and I've been fortunate enough to win James Beard Awards for 4 of those. I had some background as a travel writer before that, and then was able to put the food and the travel together, which has been a really nice thing. My true culinary background, so to speak, is that I've always been a very accomplished eater. As a small child, I've been told that my nickname was Hungry Spoon. And to some degree, I think that's what's turned this into a career. Anyway, you can follow my culinary adventures on my website, which is excitedaboutfood.com. And you can find me on Instagram. Cheryl is excited about food and by name everywhere. I have been really lucky to travel the world with food at the center of the plate. And part of what got me inspired to do the culinary tours that I am fortunate to do with Emma, with Tour with Absolutely today, was going to school in Salzburg, Austria for time in college. And I was able to use that time to sample every single thing that was edible all around Europe. And then to travel on to Morocco and anyway, kind of down and around all the Mediterranean. And I just absolutely loved the food as well as the setting and the culture and such, and figured I needed to come up with a way later in life to keep going back. And I have lucked out being able to do these culinary tours.
So our next panelist that I'd like to introduce is Wanda Seardock. Wanda, could you tell us a little bit about your business and who you are?
Yes, hi, thank you so much. I'm Wanda Surdock. I'm from Toronto, Canada. I have been in the fine foods and culinary sphere for over 20 years. I started off as a truffle specialist because I have family deeply ingrained in the truffle world. And that area in particular is in Istria, Croatia, which is the northern part of Croatia. And so I started my life actually introducing truffles to North America. And part of my joy was doing these very fun and accessible truffle events to everyday foodies, to food curious, to give them a real authentic flavor of truffles. And from that sprouted these organic tours to the region where they come from. People would often come to me after these events and say, "Hey, Wanda, this is amazing food and what a great experience. Could you actually take us to where your family hunts and develops these amazing truffle products?" And I said, "You know what? I actually should, because of the location where we are. It not only has an abundance of truffles, it has an abundance of incredible food and wines because we sit on the North 44 parallel. And in fact, my company is Route 44 because of that. But even more so, there's a famous road around where my family has their truffle estate, and it's called Route 44. And this road is famous for circling around a famous truffle forest, olive orchards, and vineyards of Istria. And so I love bringing people there, and I have done that now for 5 years. And my tours keep getting more extensive. I stretch now from doing culinary and cultural small group, really immersive, authentic tours in the north where my family is from, and taking them all along the coastline because Croatia is so famous for really fresh sea to table, farm to table, and forest to table, like culinary treasures. And with that and surrounded around it is all the culinary cultural influences of what we have there. So the food that we live off of is so many delicious foods that have been influenced by the geography, but also the culture and history of all the various occupations we've actually had in that region. And that's what makes it so special. So I encourage everybody to check out my site, root44.ca. And it's actually root, like the truffles, are root vegetable, ROOT 44.ca. Or check out my Instagram, root44 travel. So root 44 travel. And please come to one of my culinary cultural bucket list adventures with me.
Sounds fantastic. Croatia's on my bucket list, so that would be wonderful.
Well, I welcome you. I would love to take you around.
Okay, Chris Rudolph, can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about Delicious Expeditions?
Well, I'm Chris Rudolph. I'm sitting here in San Miguel de Allende, Mexico, where I've lived for, oh God, almost 35 years now. Originally from Houston, Texas. I'm a chef and cooking school owner, as well as a tour operator. Started working in Mexico in 1997, do tours in various regions here, then moved into Guatemala. I, like Cheryl, kind of really discovered food when I was an exchange student in Germany. And then I could become a really big baker and got into farm to table food and the whole different dynamic over there. So I went back to my roots and started working in Europe in about 2005. And now do, I think, 11 different countries. Also Croatia, Israel, Dalmatian Coast,
Nice.
Slovenia, 4 places in Italy, Ireland, France, the Basque Country, a little bit in Canada now. I've been in Quebec and Prince Edward Island. My tours are also small groups from 6 to 12 people, and they focus on food, wine, but also on education and history and culture. So it's a full immersion experience. We try to do a lot of off the beaten track, going to small places and villages that you normally wouldn't be able to go by yourself. So that's where you need a small group and a car to get to these places. But yeah, so I try to introduce people to really good cooks. Sometimes it's a grandma, especially in Italy, Istria as well, Slovenia, or sometimes Michelin starred restaurants. It just depends on where we are, but we kind of do the whole spectrum of experiences. I've written 4 cookbooks and a history book about my little town called Voices of San Miguel.
Wonderful. Well, Chris, that sounds great. You're all over the place and probably can share all sorts of tips and ideas with our group tonight. So Melanie Paul, you're the last one I'd like to introduce, and you're with Explore France. Perhaps you could give us a little background on who you are and perhaps some food memories.
Sure. So my name is Melanie Paulus. I'm director of the France Tourism Board in Canada. So of course, France has several tourism boards all across the world in 28 countries, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm one of those. I've been with Atout France for over 15 years now. So I had the chance, of course, to travel to France several times, being based in Montreal in Canada. And I have to say, there aren't any trips to France without food. So I'm definitely super comfortable in this panel tonight. Food is really, really important for France and for tourism. It's a very strong industry. I have to remind that, first of all, but it's also the easiest way, as you previously all said, to share local traditions, to nurture friendships, and to make sure that travelers really understand the spirit of a destination. So food is essential to any traveler, and especially women have been really on the front line sharing those tastes, those special recipes all across France and even in the overseas destinations. So I will be able to tell you a little bit more later on about what France has to offer and who are the star chefs right now in France, women chef, and I think that will be very interesting. And apart from that, I wanted to say that, you know, the topics that the previous panelists mentioned, such as truffle hunting, for instance, I have such great memories of that in France. It's right now the perfect time of the year to have to go to the truffle market, sorry, and that's where you can of course discover the whites or the black ones and try to purchase some of this very exquisite product.
Wow, you're just wafting with the truffle aromas here. Thank you, Melanie. Okay, so I'm just going to start this with a couple of questions, and each panelist, maybe you could, whoever wants to jump in and answer, that's fine. But the first question I wanted to ask is, why do you think it's important for women to understand culinary traditions when we travel? Cheryl, do you want to tackle that one?
Well, sure. I just think it is such a wonderful way to get a look into another culture. When you are any place in the world, people love to talk about their food, and they love to talk about where they like to go eat in restaurants, but they also love to talk about what their parents or their grandparents might have cooked too. And so whether we're in Morocco or we're on the Amalfi coast of Italy or in southern France or somewhere else in the world, it's a very easy, accessible way to start being able to have a sense of what somebody's culture is like and what their days are like and what foods are special. I mean, it was wonderful hearing about the truffles and such, and because that's really such a part of culture in certain areas and all. Anyway, I just think that food is something that brings us together. I mean, of course, around the table. And, yeah.
Certainly, certainly. And those culinary traditions, I think Wanda, when you were mentioning Croatia and just how these traditions of sea to table and people's lifestyles, their livelihoods are based around these culinary traditions,
Yes.
correct?
Oh yeah, I have an incredible food memory about my own self going to Croatia as a young child up until now. My family is in the truffle world, and it's their subsistence, it's their life, it's their bread and butter. And one of my favorite all-time memories and food memories is sleeping at my aunt's place, and she's this very strong and mighty 4'9" woman who is known in the town where she's from, and actually beyond it, as the truffle whisperer, because she's known for training truffle hunting dogs from pups into adulthood. And she has created and put out so many stellar truffle hunter dogs in the world. And so she's very well known. She's quite old right now, but I remember much of a truffle hunter's tradition and culture is to hunt at night when nobody when less people are in the forest. And I would wake up in the morning to this aroma, this earthy, rich aroma of truffles. And I would walk into the kitchen and I would have a plate of very traditional in our region is a plate of, fluffy scrambled whipped eggs and a full shaving of freshly found hunted truffles. And so whatever her night catch would be on my plate in the morning. And when I take people on my tours, I take them to these small towns and I have them experience truffle and eggs because, it gives me so many great memories. And they also get to taste it at our own place because we do a private truffle hunt on my family's forest, and that's one of the highlights for every single person that's come with me is, oh my God, truffled eggs. I can't stop dreaming about them. And it's true. Yeah, it's so
Thank you.
influential. Yeah.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, okay. And Chris, I wanted to ask you, because something else that's just come up is like, do you really have to be a foodie to understand food and culture? What do you think?
No, definitely not. But it's also about learning. So people, because we have cooking classes also included in my tours normally, and people are like, "Well, I don't really cook anymore. Or I don't know how to cook, but I love to eat." They don't might not know much about food, but the tour is again, it's about education. So it's about learning about it, starting to appreciate, like the truffles. Maybe you don't know much, but the more you get into it, the more you learn, the more you appreciate it, and that goes for most things. I think also the people that gather for food and wine tours is a certain type of person. They usually all get along quite well, very friendly people that have the same interest in a way. And so I found with my groups that people make friends quite easily and they remain friends for a long time.
Right, right. That the conviviality of sharing meals together is a wonderful part of doing a food tour as well. Um, Melanie, how about you? I mean, France is, as you said, certainly known for so many wonderful foods and so many great producers and chefs. Um, do we need to be a foodie to really enjoy that, or is it like
Absolutely
Chris said,
not.
like a learning
No,
experience?
it's really a learning experience in the sense that, France is very lucky to have, on a rather compact territory, a lot of diversity, natural diversity, that is. So you get, of course, so much coastline with all the fishes and the seafood. You have the mountains with the Alps, where you have, very famous cheese to taste. But you also have all the fruits. Maybe you don't know, but Southwest France has kiwi fruit. There's melons in Brittany, the very famous strawberries. So I think, even if you don't know anything about food, every time you visit a city in France, you'll be exposed to what is their official fruit or their, seasonal products. And so they elaborate around the local products, and they've done that for many years. It's not something that's trendy, it's really their traditions. So you can only drive maybe 100 kilometers and then it's a totally different recipe, not necessarily using the same ingredients, because they really source locally. So that makes for so many fun stories. They also have, because your previous webinar was about festivals, they have such crazy celebrations about food. It's also a good way to connect with the locals. I've heard, maybe I won't be able to translate it correctly, but somewhere in a small village in France, there's a festival where you need to spit a cherry kernel and it's who gets the longest throw. So it's fun. It's a way to gather, to exchange. It's also the pride to say, oh, this producer just, brought me it's his or her harvest, which is so great, and they talk about it for days and days, and they're so proud of it. So that's why you don't need to know gastronomy, you just need to be aware that it took time to grow food, to prepare it, to perfect the recipes, because that's also a thing. Like in Brittany, for instance, very basic crepe, it's an art, you know, being able to make them so thin and so perfect, and sometimes gluten-free, like with buckwheat, or it's really something that, you know, deserves to be explored. So I have so many examples. It would last hours, but I think no previous knowledge required, just of course maybe a curiosity for food, because in France, I would say sometimes they have very daring choices of ingredients and meals. The way they prepare meat, for instance, is very different from North America, if I take my own country as an example. So you need to be a bit open to exploring, at least giving it a try, I think would be the key. And then you hear so many stories about famous chefs that became famous because they had this specific way of preparing an ingredient. And that's how the story builds. And sometimes it's grandmothers indeed that used to prepare it that way, or with that specific salt, or that specific local spice, and so on. So I think it's just like the truffle and the eggs, you know, something that once you do taste it, you can never forget it.
Well, that brings me to my next question, which is about, and I'd like you all to chime in on this one, is about what kind of tips, what kind of advice can you give to our listeners tonight about, or our participants, about finding the best kind of tour for them, finding the food that they, you know, are going to most resonate with, and just maybe some research tips or something that might help them find the type of tour that would work for their body types and for their likes and dislikes. So who should I try? Who should I ask? Maybe I'll get Chris back on this, because you are very all over, you know, all sort of covering many
Yes.
many spots.
I guess it depends on your area of interest. So what destination you'd like to go to. It also depends on your activity level. Some people enjoy a lot of other activity. More people, sometimes they're a little bit older and they're limited. For example, Italian hill towns, it might be their dream, but the reality of walking up and down the streets isn't necessarily going to happen. I think it also depends on how much you want to do in a day. Some tours are up at the, you know, bright and early, and they're very active. For example, my tours, we never start before 9 or 9:30. So I have a clientele that doesn't want to get up and on the road at 7:30 and 8. So I mean, a little details like that. Also seeing how many nighttime activities there are, or if you have free evenings. Some people prefer also to explore on their own in cities and seeing restaurants on their own. They don't necessarily want to be with a group all day long. Like in our tours, we always build in some free time, because I have a clientele that does want an afternoon free here and there to, you know, explore their own interests, go to a museum if they like, try some different restaurants that we're not going to as a group. So I think it's all these little details like that.
Great, thank you. Now,
If I may chip in, I have so many memories coming back because of this discussion. We mentioned, you know, maybe smoother itineraries, not waking up too early, but I have to say, I was so amazed when one day on a tour, I was told to wake up at 5:30-ish so that we could be at the fish auction in Arcachon in Aquitaine, you know, and I will never forget seeing this place operating, you know, with the auction going on, and you see there's a lot of computer operated processes, but you still see the buyers there bidding on their fishes, and that was amazing. And then we just went for breakfast afterwards. But I mean, it was so worthwhile waking up to witness that, and also to understand that when the fishermen come in the morning, sometimes they have leftovers, and so they have on the side of the market, they sell their fish as well to the locals and the insiders, and it was just a beautiful memory. So I think a good itinerary should have some surprise, and maybe it's good to work to get that reward and that discovery, like the truffle hunt that was mentioned before, or just a small cooking class, something not too complicated, but still, touching the product, being taught how to make it really brings something. I recall one time with my family, with my dad, who's not cooking anything but barbecue, and he learned to do a Basque cake, in the Basque country, and it was really fun to see him try. I also recall, many wine tastings as well. You need to give it time for wine. You cannot sample too many wines at the same time, and you need to take the time to pair it with the local food and that people explain how it will match. So I think the tour needs to be long enough so that if you want to do half days, you're still gonna pack in a lot of discoveries. If it's not Michelin star restaurants all the time, not a problem in my opinion. It's good to have one or two during a trip, but the local restaurants, the bistros, the brasserie or the bouchon in France would also bring a lot of interesting new knowledge for gourmet visitors. And I'd say, eating at a farm or going to the market is really a must. There has to be a market visit, at least in any tour, because you need to be exposed to the wide array of product. And if you're able to visit a farm, it's even better. It's also somewhere where they can impress you. They can serve you a full meal, and it's going to be high quality, just as in a restaurant, and it's going to be made with love as well, and really catered for the small group that you're in. So I encourage it.
That's true. It's really, I love it when I get some education, some background on, like you say, going to the fish market, seeing all the different types of fish, understanding how these different restaurants get their fish, through this whole bidding process that most of us don't take part in, on our daily lives. So I think that's always fascinating, and it's always great stories to bring home as well, to understand that. And then sometimes, like you were saying, also like the agritourism, getting to know farms, getting to know families that are producers, like small producers, and getting an understanding of where that food is coming from, and the traditions that have gone into those types of growing patterns, or animal husbandry, or whatever it is.
Maureen,
And
can I just jump in with one thing?
sure, Cheryl. Yeah, go please.
On what Emma was talking about too, because one of the things I think that she does so well with tour with absolutely is the balance of all of these things that we're discussing too, so that it is a little bit of the market visits, and we go to a farm, and it's a saffron farm, so everybody learns about how saffron grows, which is it's actually a stamen of the stamen of a crocus, a particular variety crocus that just lives in a few, grows in a few areas of the world. And we have a wonderful saffron lunch with that. Then we go off someplace else and we have one of the most amazing ice creams I've ever had, which was a saffron ice cream. And it's just fun to try these different things. Anyway, again, like other people are talking about, it's a terrific combination of everything from, like, we do a night market street food tour to end in a Michelin starred kind of place with a tour with the chef of his garden, and a little bit of everything. And I just like that balance that can be provided, from the very high end to the funky that's absolutely fabulous as well.
And if you're able to negotiate to see the kitchen of a restaurant you're eating in, that is also an amazing experience.
That's fun too. So I just want to share some of the questions that I've got from some of our participants. And we'll just talk about those a little bit, and then we're going to have some presentations. So Susan Finley says, I have celiac disease, so need to eat gluten-free foods. I also have a family member with a peanut allergy. Do any of these tours accommodate those of us, with special dietary needs?
Yeah, can I speak or yeah? Hi. Yeah, I actually do. I actually welcome any kind of food um challenge, I guess. And it's not a challenge. It's I understand it's something that people have to work with and deal with. And so I have what I love about the region that I show you being in the North 44 parallel, the Mediterranean climate, it gives us so much variety. And I have had vegans, a plant-based, celiac, a variety of dietary restrictions requested on my tours. And it just excites me because it just allows me to transfer that information to my chefs that we're working with or to our food tours that we're taking and give them the creativity to come up with something beautiful with the product that they're showcasing. So I mean, nothing gives me more joy when I see a vegan like cry at an olive oil tasting because my guide there, who I spoke with at length prior, and she went to the market, the fresh market in the morning, and created these entirely exciting vegan dishes to apply the olive oil to. And it blew her mind. And likewise with the celiac, we make sure that we take care of them with the risottos and all the flavors that we are offering others. And we make it our pleasure and our creative challenge to make it accessible to everyone. And that's just,
I
it's
think,
great
yeah.
for us. Mhm.
Yeah, I think that's and you know it's important for both parties to communicate back and forth and you know make sure that that's doable
Yeah,
and you know so nobody's disappointed and so people are like you
safe as well.
say up for the challenge.
Yes.
Um, another okay, I know let me see, Mickey Carter. She says, I've taken several food tours on my trips. I've loved them all. I've learned to do these types of tours early in my visits so that I learn about excellent restaurants to return to, which is something I do as well, Mickey. I love doing that because, especially with street food, you know where it's safe, you know where it's delicious, and you know where to go back to. And Mickey's wondering, what are some other suggestions or tips about different types of culinary experiences I can try? Other types of tours or cooking classes. I know, Melanie, you've come up with a couple of ideas already there, you know, the agritourism and some of the farm visits.
The cheese
Anybody else?
caves, the tastings in caves as well.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, in settings where your senses are, more aware, that can be interesting sometimes as well. Simpler
For sure,
ways
for
of things.
sure. Okay, so I think that's most of the questions. I mean, and you know, if we have more time, we can do that too. But I know that the panelists do have some slides and things that they want to present, and then you might have questions after that. So, Evelyn, should we go ahead with that right now then?
Oh,
Yeah,
there
you
we
should be able to see my screen. Yes.
Well, one of the things that I've loved in both of these tours that we're talking about here today, that we have a couple of places left in the Marrakesh tour in May, as well as the Amalfi Coast tour in October, is the culinary workshops that we do, the cooking classes, more or less. And they are such fun. And whether people think that they know anything about food or not, everybody gets into them so much. I see that goofy photo of Nancy and me there with our tagines with our little hats on. That's showing there too. Anyway, they're wonderful, fun classes, and we learn from all kinds of of people there, and they're professionals. Sometimes they're more home cooks, and sometimes they're more restaurant chefs and all. But it's a great experience to deal with all of those, and everybody gets a chance to try their hand at it. And even people who think that they don't know anything about food get very excited about making their own pasta or figuring out how to put all this stuff together in a tagine with all of the fabulous flavors of Morocco, the preserved lemons and cinnamon and caraway and coriander and 16 other spices and such that go into these things. It's just great fun.
Great, thank you for that. So why we don't jump to Route 44 now? Wanda, please
Oh,
take the
hi.
mic.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. Yes, I do small group immersive authentic culinary tours in Croatia. And I am particularly excited about an upcoming tour where I also have some spaces left. And that's a spring women exclusive tour, May 13th to May 21st. I have very few spots we've added to it because of the interest. And we explore all the regional culinary and historical influences of the food in the region while we enjoy the breathtaking views, and there's so much of it. And I tend to break up the tour with green Istria and blue Istria. Green Istria is the interior of northern Croatia, and that northern Croatia is considered the culinary epicenter of Croatia, typically, although the food is wonderful everywhere in Croatia. This area is particularly lucky and to be filled with those incredible olive groves and vineyards and citrus fruits and figs and aromatic herbs and of course the truffles. And so we really explore that region and take you to places that I know so well through my family. I have quite a network of people in the culinary world and in hospitality. So we get to really get a behind the scenes view of how special this area is. I have a few of my family who are Michelin star chefs. We really break down the pretension. These are very passionate, hardworking people, and they take you into the kitchen. They show you an incredible foodie experience. It will blow your mind. We go to Anthony Bourdain's favorite restaurants along his path, and you meet the owners of these restaurants. You meet the most humble and passionate and loving winemakers. They're so incredibly proud of their grapes, and we have very famous and well-known award-winning regional grapes in Croatia. They're just becoming more and more fine-tuned. And then I take you to this gorgeous coastline that will take your breath away. The crystal clear waters along our coastline is, well, they're legendary. And with it comes an abundance of seafood and all the traditional seafood plates that we offer. I do love to show, like so many people have mentioned, the variety of how people present a Michelin star format to the local, we call them konabas, local taverns, and the nonas and nonos in there making the dinners. I like to showcase the range of flavors and dishes through those types of experiences. And being a small group, what I love the most is we sit at one table together and we share our favorite food memories of the day. And it's always hard to pinpoint one. We also have these small walkable communities that you can just stroll and find your own foodie experiences or your own wonderful history, culture, shopping, spa, whatever you want. Everything's designed to be within a 30-minute radius from the moment you land in Croatia to the moment you leave. We are not spending hours transferring over from one place to another. We are settling in and getting right into the culture of the community. And so I welcome anybody who's interested in doing this to join me in May. And I have another tour to explore all of this in September. And feel free to reach out and learn more.
Thank you, Wanda.
Thank you.
Chris, do you want to mention us something about your upcoming tours, please?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't have time to put a presentation together. Winter is our busy season here in Mexico, and this winter has been very busy. So my next tour that has availability is May 21st through 30th, and it's the Basque Country, which is going to be in Spain and France. We start in Santander and we go from Bilbao to San Sebastian, hugging the northern coast until we get to Biarritz, and then a little beautiful village called Sarre, France, where we spend the last couple days. Basque food is some of the best in Europe. We also spend time in the Rioja wine region and learn about the the wines of northern Spain. They call it the chocolat, which is the sparkling white wines of the north. Cider is big in that area as well. We go to 1 or 2 Michelin-starred restaurants, but again, I like grandmas. I like kind of just home cooking. So we also go out into the countryside, into farmhouses, and we just eat with locals, combining history, culture with our different activities. After that, we had a tour in Ireland the first week of September. I want to bring that around to the celiac question because Ireland is a place that I didn't realize until I started working there where 20% of the population has celiac disease. And so it's a perfect place for people with these issues because they cater, every single place, small or large, caters to people that are gluten-free and with celiacs. So it's the perfect country to go to, and you have so many options everywhere because they're prepared and ready and waiting. Baked goods, I've never seen anywhere in the world like they have gluten-free baked goods in Ireland because they've been doing gluten-free actually for a very long time. And so that is a great tour for that. And the other place for celiacs is Mexico. We're corn country. We are not wheat country. This is your original gluten-free cuisine. So Mexico, again, is completely geared towards dealing with people with celiac disease. And I do tours in Mexico about 4 or 5 times a year. The other tours I have lined up in September are Umbria, Istria, and then the Camino for people that would like to walk the Camino, but it's also a culinary experience. So we're walking during the morning, but we're eating at lovely restaurants in the evening. All my information you can find online at deliciousexpeditions.com.
Great, thank you, Chris. I'm gonna share now again back to Melanie.
Yes. So you can move to the next slide. Of course, it's a bit corporate, but it's, a tourism board. I wanted to take this opportunity to remind the viewers that France's gastronomic meal has been listed at UNESCO as intangible humanities heritage. So, and we will celebrate in 2025 the 15th anniversary of this listing. So, of course, it's UNESCO. It looks like it's something that's only for Michelin star restaurants, but not at all. The idea when the French meal was listed was to find ways to promote and preserve the format, which is a social gathering in the first place. So the place where families spend hours at a table and discuss. It's also the fact that you have the aperitif, that you have generally 4 courses, the starter, the main with vegetables, the cheese, of course, before dessert, and sometimes liquors, of course, that can be paired with the French gastronomic meal. When the process of listing the French gastronomic meal at the UNESCO happened, France had to commit to creating specific venues where gastronomy would be promoted. So that happened to be Lyon, the city of gastronomy, but also Dijon in Burgundy, as well as Tours in the Loire Valley. So those sites were created 15 years ago and are still operating today, and they are really invested in their mission to create awareness, continue to promote. Of course, when you're in France, you can have burgers just like anywhere else in the world, but you understand that the French, they want to pass on the tradition, and they're ready to take the means to protect it and to promote it. So speaking of Lyon, for instance, I have to mention that it's one of the capital of gastronomy in France. It's also a city that had the most Michelin star chef for a long time, and also has the Bouchon, which is a special type of restaurant that you can only find in Lyon, or barely only in Lyon, that has a label as well, so you can recognize them. And it's a restaurant with a lot of history, in the sense that it used to be the restaurants where workers would go for their lunch break. So back in the days, over 100 years ago, they would just, take a break, have a very simple menu, but something that would be that would sustain for the day. And also it was very funny because they were limited in the alcohol that they were served, thanks to special bottles that had a thicker bottom, so they wouldn't see with the green opaque glass that they were served a bit less wine that they should have. But anyways, it's fun stories that you learn only in a bouchon, and it's also a place where you will taste meals that you would never find anywhere else in France, because they were created in Lyon, inspired by the products that were available there, and meant to be, of course, the most nutritious. You also have the female
Oh. Can everybody hear me? Yes, we're good?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
can
so I
hear
think
you.
we lost Melanie for a second.
Yeah.
Getting excited about the next one.
Yes. Melanie, are you back? Oh, okay, I'm gonna have to pass the mic to you, Maureen, then, for now.
Okay. Well, yeah. I thought a couple of people have asked a few questions. I've got one other question here from Mickey Carter, and I think Cheryl, you might be able to answer this one, because I think it's something that comes up for all of us. And I don't know about other folks, but I tend, when you're on these expeditions and trying all these wonderful foods, you want to take something home. And Mickey's asking, how easy or difficult is it to ship home a bottle or two of wine, of olive oil, or other foods that I experienced from shops on a food tour? And then she's also saying, is it reliable to send things back to the States, or is it more trouble than it's worth?
Actually, it's really become pretty easy to do. When I used to travel in Europe a million years ago, things didn't show up. They showed up broken. If they came, they took 6 months. It was just kind of a nightmare. And today it has become so easy and so routine. I routinely send back olive oil and jams and salts and lots of things. And sometimes it's from the shops or the vendors, the farmers, whoever themselves. And we also have made arrangements at different times for people who've collected a variety of things over, their week's travels with us, to stop in the local post office. And, there's always packing materials and things to be able to put things together to ship home too. And they usually come very quickly. In fact, sometimes they've beat me home and that's been great too. But yeah, it's something that has become pretty routine in the days of, FedEx and other companies that do, very quick shipments and take good care with things. So I would encourage you to do that, because that's one of the fun things, to be able to bring home these various goodies to sample for weeks and maybe months afterward. I'm going to use some of my Italian olive oil for dinner tonight.
Wonderful. I've got another question here from Kathy Thorpe saying, does anyone have any suggestions or recommendations for food tours in Turkey, formerly known as Turkey? I always have to add that little yeah at the end now. I know, Kathy, I was in Istanbul earlier, and I took a wonderful food tour that talked about the coffee, the tea, some of the baklavas that they make there. I don't have the name of it right here, but I can share it with our organizers here, and we can maybe share that later.
My apologies for earlier. There was a power outage, very brief, but just enough for the Wi-Fi to drop. Sorry.
Well, we're glad to have you back.
Yeah, it's fine. At least I get the chance to mention our female chef, who is running the first vegan chef to obtain a Michelin star in France. And I just have great news for you all. She is opening a temporary restaurant. So it's going to be not so far from Nantes, in a fisherman village in Trente-Mou, Atlantic Loire Valley. And the restaurant will be called Ona. It's the name of her original table, but it will be open only February to May, or maybe June, but you have to look it up. And of course, she's taking reservation. But I think it's fun that chefs are also now moving around in France and not necessarily wanting to invest a specific address for a long time. So they get inspired themselves by where they're located. And I think that brings a lot of, a great future for gastronomic tourism.
Wonderful, thank you. Well, it looks like we're just about ready to wrap up. Does anybody on our panel want to jump in with anything? And also, any of the participants, do you want to send me a quick question? Okay, here, Gail. I am going to be in the Loire Valley in April, May. What is the name of the restaurant that Melanie was just talking about in the Loire Valley?
The restaurant is Ona, O-N-A. So it's going to be more on the Atlantic side, so like south of Nantes, but you can access it from Loire Valley easily.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. Evelyn, are we just about ready to wrap this up now? It
Yeah,
looks
we're
like
ready.
it's
Yeah,
8
we're on
o'clock.
the top of the hour. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yes, that would be
So I
love to
wanted
wrap
to
up.
really thank our panelists. I think we've got all sorts of good ideas, lots of food for thought, for our stomach. Yeah, and I wanted to thank you. I think we all are kind of excited about what the year has to offer. There's all sorts of tours that you're offering that I think there's a few spots people might be interested in, and I think we'll be able to share all the information and let people know through the JourneyWoman directory, as well as directly through the companies that everybody's putting your name to your business with, so that if they're interested, they can follow up. So yeah, I'd just like to say thank you. And, bon appetit.
Bon appetit.
Thank you
Oh,
for
great.
having
Thank
us.
you.
Thank you for having us. Yeah, thank you everyone for joining.
Yes,
Great pleasure.
it's so
Wonderful.
fun.
You.
I've enjoyed
Thank
it.
you, everyone. We will see you later on the next
Okay,
webinar.
then.
Thank you for joining us.
Okay.
Good night.
Visit us.
Good
Good night,
night.
everybody.
Bye.
Good night. Good night.